You're watching Unrendered on IKTV. I'm Tony Regisford, and my guest on this edition is the Honorable Jomo Thomas. He's a senator with the ULP administration. And like I said, no stranger to IKTV. He was once a commentator with this program, Plain Talk, here on IKTV. And an illustrious individual. And pleasure to have him back, Jomo. Pleasure to have you here.
It's a delight to be here, Tony. It's a delight to be speaking to your listeners once again.
So I think the last time I had you here, you were either been made a senator already, or it was known that you were going to be a senator. I'm not quite sure.
I think I just been made a senator.
Yes, and with that, you were the deputy speaker as well, because the person who was made the offer did not accept.
Yes.
That was the Honorable Friday.
Yes,
Godwin Friday. Right. So that's a year and 3 months ago. It really seems as if I was just talking to you only 3 months ago. So
time flies.
So time flies in the political life as well, I think. Since your selection, or since being made a senator, what has that experience been for you in terms of being inside the House of Parliament? Now, seeing a year and some of how the actual thing operates and what obtains when you're having these parliamentary debates.
Well, the experience has been a good one. It's not something that is absolutely new to me. It's not anything that I had not expected. I am still a little saddened by the quality of the conversation, the depth of the debates that we have in Parliament. That had been my view before I got there. That remains my view. I think that too much politics and too little issue or policy is presented and discussed in the Parliament. I would like to see more issue-oriented policy discussion. But a lot of times there's, in my estimation, far too many political bantering.
But in large measure, what is that due to? Is it because of the competitive nature of our politics? And I know we're following the Westminster system, which other countries also follow, and you get the type of discussion in some cases that you are advocating for. So the competitiveness is still there.
That's part of it. But I think an even larger part is that many of the persons whom we elect or select to sit in the Parliament are not sufficiently students of policy or even students of politics.
So would you say that that is so on both sides?
I think, yes, on both sides. But I do believe that in my short experience in the Parliament, it is evident to me that the opposition parliamentarians are even less prepared than government parliamentarians. I can give examples.
Yes.
I can talk about the discussion we had on the passport bill.
Right.
Where you had a validation exercise that was turned into, if you listen to the opposition, issue of constitutional dimension. They had argued that if they were to get into power, they would overturn the law. And evidently, the men had not spent the time to read a document that was no more than 4 pages, because appended to the changes was a schedule of payment, which no one evidently in the opposition paid attention to read, or their supporters on radio and so on. So there was that, and there was there's another issue recently which eludes me now.
But using this passport issue as an example, I mean, I'm sure there are many other examples where things are, on both sides, as you say, get skewed in a direction which moves tangentially to the issue at hand, the policy issue at hand, and moves in the sphere of politics. But is it that Parliament, in a lot of cases, is just a whole show? It's what you call brinksmanship, is it?
But Parliament is more than a show. You see, Tony, I have a different view Simply because we are in a poor developing society. We have a tremendous amount of problems, enormous difficulties, even on the way the environmental hazards of living where we are and the devastations that we have had over the last few years. We had Thomas, we had the Easter floods, we had the December floods of Christmas floods of last year, we had the drought. We have issues, I mean, too many to mention. So we cannot, in my mind, simply say, as some people tend to say, that, oh, we are no different from any of the other parliaments. Because if you look at the British Parliament, if you look at some of the parliaments in Asia, you see people fighting. You see, we haven't gotten there.
I mean, the British Parliament is just
pretty
insults,
yeah.
insults thrown
But
both sides.
Look, that's a developed society.
Yeah.
Those guys have resources. They can leverage resources if they don't have it. We are not in that position.
Right.
So it seems to me that we have to use our brain even more than some of these developed societies that we talk about. And I want to see us use our brain. People talk about building up a knowledge-based economy. I want to see us do a knowledge-based parliament where people respond to issues. I'm not saying you can't put your politics in there, but certainly when we're debating issues, I want to see us debate issues from a knowledge standpoint, from a clear policy standpoint, that where someone who is listening, apart from the fact that he gets to cheer on his respective
his comrade,
parliamentarian comrade, he can also learn something.
Right.
And too often I think the debate is not sufficiently up to par.
I'm going to stick on this for a little bit because you talk about the honorable members coming to contribute to a debate, and very often they may feel pressured, especially now that it's being broadcast live on television most times, and certainly on the radio. And there's a far wider audience that's taking in what's going on. Now, a representative, say, from East St. George, just call a constituency, may go into rise, and at the moment of rising, he knows that he's got to put on a sort of a show. He or she knows that they've got to put on a show to appease the audience outside of the house and outside of the people sitting around the table.
Why do we believe that people need to be appeased?
I'm just saying,
people need to be educated.
It's this flamboyance.
People need to be educated.
Yes.
And people, there's place for banter. There's place for political picong, even in the parliament. But I want to see us address issues and address them from a profound standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but I'm just saying that a lot of times it seems as if it's like a batsman going to the wicket and he's playing on his home turf and he wants to hook every ball for six.
And he's going to get out.
And he's going to get
Unless you're a Vivian Richards or Richie Richardson, you're going to
get caught
in that ball, every ball that bounces at you.
Right. Now, just around the time you were made senator, you were also in a contest for being the ULP candidate for South Leeward.
Yes.
I think you had declared your intentions to contest for that position.
Well, not at the time of my intention to contest came a few months later. But the understanding was that once I became a senator, well, I think the popular understanding was that once I became a senator, I probably would be in the political huntings.
Right. And
so there was a lot of speculation as to where I would go.
Right. But you knew that if you were going South Leeward would have been your area of choice.
I can tell you that when the party had decided to hold a poll in October of 2013, I was polled in a number of different areas. In fact, I was polled in 3 different areas.
Right.
And the poll came back, and we had discussions about the poll and where I should go. And I indicated to the party leadership that my intention is to go
South Leeward.
in a particular direction, and that's where I declared that I wanted to go.
So you became the eventual winner because it was a contest at the
Yes,
end.
yes.
It went down to a vote, didn't it?
Well, actually,
Or somebody
no.
at the time of voting, the other person stepped back.
In February, in late February, the party had a meeting. The leadership of the party held a meeting with Mr. Grenville Williams and I.
Right.
And neither of us wanted to step away from the contest. And we decided that we would hold a poll. The party commissioned cadres of
Peter Wickham.
Did a poll, and then in May, we were told that Peter Wickham's poll said that in their estimation, in their polling,
Right.
they discovered that Jomo Thomas would be
A more favored
best
person.
suited to carry the party's banner in South Leeward. So that was, we knew that in May, but we went on balance of May, June, and then
Right.
on July 26th,
Right.
at the party conference, South Leeward Party Conference, I was officially made
Right.
the candidate, and both two other persons, the candidate in the 2010 election,
This is David Brown.
Mr. David Brown, and the other contender,
Grenville Williams.
Mr. Grenville Williams, both spoke in support of
Right.
my candidacy.
It has to be said that leading up to that, there was some dissension. I mean, among maybe, I'm not sure about David Brown, but certainly with Mr. Grenville Williams, he was putting up a fight, as it were, and he had some measure of support from certain people in the constituency.
Yes.
And in fact, there was one gentleman, I don't know his name, who actually wrote a letter in the newspaper, I think,
Yes.
and came out very vocally, and he seems to be
Yes. Mr. Cruikshank.
Mr. Cruikshank, right. Now, have you, since being made the candidate, have you been able to unite all forces? Does everybody
Well,
now speak with one voice?
I have reached out to everyone, including Grenville, and initially I tried to do it, motivate him to see if he can bring those people who were closest to him, and we can have one conversation with people who were closest to me. That did not happen. And then I spoke with him, and I spoke with those persons who were closest to him individually. And some people have come along
across
and become committed to working for the success of the ticket. Others have not yet done so.
Is that a problem that you foresee?
It's always a problem. You want to go with a machine that is fully united into an election, and we would still, there's still some time between the now and the election.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, as the election
And
fever
as the
pitch
election
rises,
fever grows,
yes,
we would continue reaching out to those persons. There are not a lot of people, but
some of them are influential.
some of them have been around with the party for a long time, know the lay of the land
Right.
in South Leeward. And certainly we would want to use the historical memory, the understanding of politics in South Leeward to move the candidacy forward and to eventually move towards victory. My position is that we need to reach out, but at the same time, we are also, in my team, in our strategy conversations and discussions, we have talked about building a campaign that would take us to victory in South Leeward. I don't believe that anybody is indispensable.
Right. So with or without
With or without some
full
of those
unity,
forces,
you are going to assemble enough
Yes.
arsenal
Yes.
to put
to
up.
triumph in South Leeward.
Okay, we're going to hold it there.
Yes.
We're at the point at break, so when we come back, we'll pick up the conversation.
Very well.
You're watching Unrendered on IKTV. My guest is Senator Jomo Thomas, and we will continue with him after the break.